video is about disrespect towards family members and loved ones. One of my students asked me this question, asked me how I would respond, when somebody disrespects somebody that you love and is close to you. I'm well aware of, there's gangs out there where they live and die by respect. And that's what they do, Like, everything's about respect when it comes to, a lot of the gangs. You watch these movies and you see how it is, like, they'll literally kill somebody because, another gang has disrespected their gang in some way or another. They might even go on their territory or tag the other territory up, or another gang might wear another gang's colors as a disrespect. Like, it's just a lot of people in this world are killing each other over disrespect, and to me a lot of it boils down to like spiritual growth and how you handle that situation. Of course I don't like disrespect. I don't like disrespect towards me. I wouldn't like disrespect towards my family, but I think, or my loved ones, but I think it depends on where the disrespect is coming from. If it's somebody close to you and it's a friend, it's a family that's disrespecting you, then you gotta handle the situation a little differently. If it's disrespect coming from a coworker, then you gotta handle it differently. If it's disrespect coming from your superior at work, then you gotta handle it a certain way. If it's disrespect coming from a friend, then you gotta handle it a certain way. If it's disrespect coming from a relative, you gotta handle it a certain way. If it's disrespect coming from a stranger, then you handle it differently. So it really depends on where the disrespect is coming from. I'm not at all saying that everything should be ignored and that you should just allow anybody to disrespect you or your family or whatever, or your loved ones. It really depends on the circumstances, how you feel at that moment, and how you wish to deal with it at that moment. But if it's a stranger, and the chances are you might not see that person ever again, or you're not going to see that person often, then I think a lot of times handling the situation with just ignoring it, usually sometimes that's a good route to go. But a lot of this is more ego, is more pride, and I feel that as you advance in spiritual growth, that affects you less. It's more of like getting your feelings hurt, your emotions hurt, and that's not a life-threatening thing. Like, when somebody's truly attacking you and putting your life at danger, by law you have the right to defend yourself. You even have the right to take that person's life away. But if somebody just simply disrespects you or somebody else that you care about, and then all of a sudden you escalate it to a physical situation, a lot of times the law is not going to protect you at that moment, because you escalated it further when it wasn't necessary. And I see a lot of times people get their feelings hurt when it doesn't even really deal with them. You got literally people that would argue for or against a certain sports team and then almost get so heated that they kill each other or fight over it. Or, there's a lot of like die-hard Bruce Lee fans out there where if you speak something negative about Bruce Lee, like, they're ready to like beat you down. And these people might not even have met Bruce Lee or nothing. They just get their feelings hurt so much. Like, when you attack somebody that they care about, they get very protective. And I see a lot of people out there that are like that, and I think that that's not really the spiritual route. I think that it's like learning how to deal with the disrespect from a meditative standpoint. It's important. You know, there's a lot of stories about Buddha. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know. Memorize the exact stories, but generally, I know that, you know, there's stories of Buddha where people would disrespect him, and then he would just sit there and listen, and then he'll be like, "Are you finished?" And he'll be like, "I have to go now, but if you're not finished, when I'm done with what I have to do, I'll come back and you could finish." You know, I mean, he would handle it like, he'll handle that type of disrespect in that manner, and then he'd have a disciple following him the whole time, and then the disciple would be more angry and upset than Buddha would be, even though the disrespect is being directed directly towards Buddha. But then the disciple would take more offense than Buddha would. You know, and I feel even it happened today. You know what I mean? Like, one of my students was even more offended than I was about how disrespectful some stranger was towards me and towards the both of us. You know, and I think it's important to not get caught up in that. You know, to not get caught up in feeling that you have to defend yourself at all times when disrespect is coming towards you or even your loved ones. You know, this is all verbal stuff, you know what I mean? Like, this is all mental, this is all psychological, and it's all the mind, it's all thoughts. And the stronger you are in meditation, the less that it will bother you. But I'm not saying that, hey, I don't have my bad days and I don't have my days of where I want to fight back. And I do fight back. But I pick and choose my battles wisely. And when dealing with strangers, I think that's one of the easiest ways to deal with. It's not a problem for me. You know, I don't really get too wound up with strangers. But what is difficult is maybe when you're dealing with family members, close friends, loved ones, you're dealing with co-workers, you're dealing with superiors, you're dealing with the police. Those may be very challenging because you may be going to work and then you have co-workers that are disrespecting you, and I had to deal with that. You know, I dealt with that for a period of 4 years. And then I finally chose to say something about it, and then it spiraled out of control from there. And these are some very valuable things that have to be learned in life. Like how to deal with disrespect coming from many different angles. And it's not an easy thing. It really isn't. And there's no like clear-cut answer for everybody. But all I'm saying is that as you gain more experience in life, as you obtain more wisdom, you'll be able to handle the situations with more ease, and not overreact. You know, there are certain situations where from the outside perspective, people would label me as overreacting. But at that moment, I felt that's how I wanted to handle it, and I don't really regret how I handled certain situations of disrespect. But sometimes I'm not having a good day, and I will protect myself verbally, and I'll be extremely aggressive. And people have seen videos of me being extremely aggressive, seeing me using profanity, and just very like almost like a high temper response. And I have that ability. It doesn't even have to get physical, because as soon as they see how serious I am verbally, they go into shock, or they don't know what to say, or they just get silent, or they, you know, it just changes the entire dynamic. So dealing with disrespect is not necessarily just fighting the person physically, sometimes you just defend yourself verbally, and you just do it like really, you know, extremely direct, and you settle the situation immediately. But then other times, I just won't say anything. Other times, I take more of a humble approach, and I just simply stay silent. You know, and I don't think I ever had to be physical. Sometimes I get a little physical, but not in an extreme way. But that is something that's very delicate, especially when you're in a position where you have more strength and you have more power. It's gonna work against you. So meaning, if say you're a man and a woman is just outrightly disrespecting you, you put your hands on her, the whole world's against you. The law's against you, the police officers against you, the courts are against you. Everybody's against you because, hey, you're the man and you're the one who put your hands on the woman. And then that's a whole nother thing. It's like, how do you deal with disrespect when it comes from a woman? Not just any woman, but say your wife or your girlfriend or your mother or whoever. Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with disrespect coming from a child? You know, like a teenager or something, or somebody that's like 13 years old outrightly disrespecting you. How do you deal with that? You know, you put your hands on the person, everybody's turning against you. Well, how do you deal with disrespect coming from your child, you know, your son or your children? I mean, these are situations, it puts you in a tough predicament. You know, so there's no easy answer to all of this. And it's not, I'm not saying to ignore everything. You know, and because I don't ignore everything, but I just follow my feelings, my heart at that moment, and I deal with it. But there's a delicate way to deal with it, because if you don't deal with it properly, you could essentially maybe end up in jail, you know, or hurting somebody, hurting yourself, or you just end up being in a situation that's just, you put yourself in a very, you know, bad place. You know, so a lot of times, for what I try to do, I just try to stay away from the people that are disrespectful. You know, strangers is easy. You know, as soon as a stranger disrespects me, you know, you just move on. But if it's somebody that's a friend and they disrespect, then hey, I might just cut connections. If it's a family member they disrespect, then I might cut connections. You know, like, that's my way of handling certain situations. But if it's a coworker, you know, then you have to decide what you're gonna do, because you can't just cut connections because you got to go to work. And you see that person, you might have to deal with it directly, talk to him privately about it. Or if you go to superior, then other things could get involved, and then people start getting written up. I mean, it gets really sticky, you know, and it's not an easy solution, you know. And I've been dealing with this for my whole life, dealing with disrespect coming from co-workers, dealing with disrespect coming from family members, dealing with disrespect coming from so-called friends, even dealing with disrespect coming from students, dealing with disrespect coming from strangers. I mean, and of course the online community, dealing with disrespect coming from the online community. I mean, there's disrespect coming everywhere, from every single angle, and it's like, fighting it is a never-ending battle. And it's just like learning to just be like, you know what, learning not to fight, and just learning to just move on and pay less attention to these negative people, because essentially it's just negative people trying to bring you down. And you got to learn to stay away from this negativity and move on with your life. Stay positive and surround yourself with positive people. And when you surround yourself with positive people and you remain positive yourself, then great things will happen. But this negativity it's very powerful, and it could drag you down. You know, all it takes is one negative person to just kind of destroy your entire life. You know, look at people like John Lennon getting shot and killed, Tupac getting shot and killed. You know what I mean? Like, you know, even like D. Rose getting charged with, you know, rape. You know what I mean? Like, one person could bring you down. You know, one negative person, and you just got to do your best to stay away from negativity. And that's why I enjoy living a private life, because I don't like to be out all over out here surrounding myself with just negative people. You know, it's just so easy to find negativity in this world, but it's so hard to find positivity. So if you have any family or friends that are positive, it would be an intelligent thing to do to keep these individuals close to you, because chances are you won't find this type of energy for many years to come. You know, and this world is filled with competition, ego, pride, jealousy, envy, all sorts of negative energies coming from all different angles. And it's a lot of hard work to maintain positivity within your life. You know, and as soon as somebody kind of gives you the wrong energy, especially for me, I had no problems crossing them out of my life, because I don't need to deal with that. You know, if you keep surrounding yourself with negative people, negative things will happen. You know, if all your friends are drug dealers or something, but you happen not to be, well, don't be surprised, you know, if you're hanging out with your friends one day and then they get shot up and then you go ahead and get shot up with them. Don't be surprised if you're hanging out with your friends and then all of a sudden the police are executing a search warrant and you happen to be in there and you get arrested as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's so important to be attentive to the types of energies that you surround yourself with. And yes, you know, I might live a very isolated life, just my family and my students, and that's pretty much it. But that's fine with me. You know, I'd rather hang around with 10 positive people in my life than 10,000 negative people that are just waiting to backstab me or kill me, or just waiting for my downfall. You know, so I don't want nothing to do with that. You know, so, you know, that's my thing about it. That's my outlook on it.